Welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry for that late intro. If you were listening for the first 12 or 14 seconds of this episode, you did hear some rumbling, bumbling, stumbling, and that was probably my cats. Welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, for a second time. If you did not hear the rumbling, bumbling, stumbling that I just tried to recreate in one way or another, or for that matter, tell you, hey, what is it that I'm hearing? You know, like, did I click on the wrong podcast show? No, you're on the right show. Don't worry. In celebration of the Royal Rumble 2022, right? Yeah, 2022. In celebration of the Royal Rumble 2022, I thought that it would be a great idea to look at what Wikipedia calls the 12th annual Royal Rumble event. And instead of looking at just the Royal Rumble match from that time period, I thought that we would look at the Royal Rumble event in a whole. Because, you see, ladies and gentlemen, growing up, the reason that this Royal Rumble event is so close to my heart is growing up, I got to watch it more than once. I got to watch it a total of maybe 700 times. Honestly, maybe 200, maybe 400, maybe 800. I got to watch it so many times. But you see, ladies and gentlemen, it's not because it was on a video cassette, a DVD. It's not because it was on a home library release, because I knew someone who ordered the pay-per-view who happened to record it, and then we would just sit back and watch it because it was so entertaining or so fun. You see, ladies and gentlemen, most of WWF's pay-per-views at the time were based around one thing, and that was their video games. Believe it or not, and there were 3 video games that played through this exact story. Only a little bit different. See, they would only change ever so sensitive information, or they would change like minute details that you may or may not notice. For instance, in a video game for the Nintendo 64, if you're playing as a creative wrestler rather than as Mick Foley or Mankind, then it will say something along the lines of, well, even if you're playing as Mick Foley or Mankind, it won't fit. I mean, it actually would fit a lot better, but the video game itself doesn't know that. It kind of isn't self-aware that what was supposed to happen. So I'm going to tell you guys what's supposed to happen, and then I'm going to tell you what happens on the video game, okay? So, anyway, here's what happens IRL, in real life. Mick Foley shows up to a SmackDown. I want to say that it's SmackDown, but it could be Raw. But shows up to a SmackDown event. Let's say, just for the sake of argument, that it is SmackDown, because I don't want to say SmackDown and or Raw and have to keep saying that. Or anyway, he shows up to one of these live events, and whenever he does, he grabs a microphone and Triple H starts threatening Mick Foley, saying something along the lines of, I could beat you in 5 minutes. You're nothing to me. Something along the lines of that. I've already beaten the holy hell out of you, Mick Foley, Mankind. And he says, like, Mankind looks at Triple H and says, yeah, you have beaten me. You've scrambled my brains. I've taken one too many chair shots to the head. And this is what happens, like, IRL, by the way, just so you're stay tuning with me a little bit. Don't worry, I have a point. And then afterwards, he goes, and this is the funny part whenever you compare it to the video game. The video game shows you nothing but a black screen with white text on it. The WWF No Mercy game for the Nintendo 64 that I was telling you about shows nothing but a black screen with white text on it, almost like a narrator is speaking, and then it says, and then suddenly, he changed. Whenever the black text goes away and the white words go away, all of a sudden you see a different character. And not a completely different character, but kind of like Mr. Jackal and Mr. Hyde. You see, Mick Foley at the time played he actually played three alternate characters, aside from Mick Foley, making the fourth. The Four Faces of Foley is what he was referred to as. Most of you know already. If you've been a wrestling fan for as long as I have, you find it to be extremely funny. Mick Foley played Mrs. Foley's baby boy. Mankind was his second character. Dude Love was his third character, but the character that we will be talking about today is Cactus Jack. Well, even though that happened on the video game, you don't, in real life, you can't really just show a black screen and make an announcer say, and suddenly he changed, unless it's like a comic book, right? So instead of doing that, Mick Foley, in real life, actually said, it's Cactus Jack, he's back! And then all of a sudden he takes off this leather mask that he had, and then he takes off this shirt, and he makes somewhat of a dramatic or a drastic change in appearance, and he stands up a little bit taller, and I guess I'm supposed to believe that that's a different person, but at the same time it works. If you've been following professional wrestling as much as I have, or for instance, let's take you through the whole Royal Rumble debacle. In case you don't know, there's a wrestling game called, it goes by the name of WWF Here Comes the Pain. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Here Comes the Pain. So if you're playing as someone other than Brock Lesnar and you're going for the World Wrestling Federation Championship, now, I could be wrong about this. I mean, even though Brock Lesnar, maybe you can play as Brock Lesnar and do it, but in my experience from playing the game and seeing other people play it as well through playthroughs and stuff of that nature, they never have picked Brock Lesnar and gotten away with this. But whenever it comes down to the final two people in the match and you're about to eliminate someone, and the elimination is how you win the Royal Rumble in question. But whenever it comes down to the event itself and the final two people in the ring, usually it's either the Big Show or it's Brock Lesnar. And the reason for that is IRL, in real life, it comes down to The Rock and it comes down to Big Show. Had that been the case, Brock Lesnar is literally on the title of the game, so it makes sense that they would somehow try to in some way or another put him into the story. Sometimes you might get someone, or you might get a save file that rolls Brock Lesnar into the match, for instance, instead of, like I said, they changed minute details, minute details sometimes that they changed. Sometimes you might get Brock Lesnar in this story per se. That's not the important part, I guess. I'm just nitpicking. But regardless of who it is that your opponent is, whenever it comes down to the last two people and you're about to eliminate them, you're about to eliminate your opponent because you yourself count as one of the last two. I feel like I'm over explaining this, but it's just so that you get an idea. I'm not trying to say that it comes down to the last two and yourself. I'm trying to say that you would be one of the last two. And had that been the case, well, they show a cutscene that shows kind of controversial, where it's like your feet touch the floor and your opponent's feet also touch the floor, but your opponent's feet touch the floor before yours does. And see, that's important to note because in the Royal Rumble event, in the Royal Rumble match, rather, whoever's feet touch the floor first kind of loses. So in this video game, technically, your opponent loses and you're the one who ends up winning if you're able to pull off the said conditions. And if that is the case, and in this case that is the case, as I'm trying to explain it to the best of my ability, if you haven't played these games, however, you're going to have a hard time understanding what it is that I'm talking about. But I'll try to paint a picture as much as I can. Because this event, like I said, is near and dear and close to my heart. Because I grew up not only playing these video games, but also reliving. And it wasn't until years later, ladies and gentlemen, it wasn't until years later, years down the line, until I realized something. It dawned on me whenever I was maybe 9 years old, maybe 10 years old, that I was playing through the Royal Rumble event as it happened, that I was playing through the King of the Ring event as it happened, the Survivor Series event as it happened, all the way up until the last WrestleMania, the SummerSlam event of that year as it happened. And we are on the Royal Rumble 2000, which took place at the, I almost said Mahogany Win Center. Holy crap. Excuse me. That took place in Madison Square Garden, what they kept calling the most famous arena in the world. Now, I don't know whether or not that's true or not. I don't. I've never been to MSG. I'm sure some of you have. And if you have, that's great. That's good for you. We open our contest, however, and like I said, I've seen this before. And whenever I was a little boy, I realized it. But I realized it. I was like, wait a minute. Isn't that what happened on the video game? And then I would try to tell my family, hey, isn't that what happened on the video game? But they would look at me like I was stupid. Because of course, they just bought the video game for me. They don't know what happened on the video game. Anyway, Before we get into that, however, we have to talk about what happened on Rampage, January 7th, 2022. Even though I'm getting kind of excited about the Royal Rumble event, I still want to keep up with modern day wrestling. Adam Cole versus Jake Atlas. Yeah. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It was a slow paced but entertaining match. Andrade El Dia. Oh man, I swear I don't want to mess up this guy's name. Because he's like, at one point in time, he was the number one wrestler in the world. And the number one, he was voted the number one luchador in the world for the longest time. And I remember following this guy's career ever since he's went to WWE. But WWE tends to screw up a lot of things, unfortunately. And they promised him a push. They promised him that he was going to be this big international superstar, but when Vince McMahon seen him, apparently he didn't like the way that he looked. I don't know if it's because he's Mexican. I don't know if it's because he's smaller and he's a lot thinner than what Vince is used to working with. For those of you who don't know, Vince McMahon himself is a powerhouse. So I'm going to assume that Vince McMahon himself would want someone who he is looking to push and make the face of his own company look exactly like Vince McMahon looks. You know, Vince has this inferior complex where if no one looks like he looks, then he thinks, you know what? They should not be working in my company. That is a disgrace. But nonetheless, shortly thereafter, Andrade El Idolo, sounds like that I'm calling him an idiot, but I promise you that I'm not, interviews asking why Darby Allin works for Sting, and Tony tells him they're just friends, which is true. The next match that we got was Aaron Solo versus Hook, but for some reason, I'm pretty sure Jim Ross, kept calling Aaron Solo Aaron Soho or Soloho, like he was mispronouncing for whatever. After Hook wins, QT Marshall never mind, I thought that was a typo. Gets, oh okay, it says gets. I thought it said sets. I was gonna say, how does he set in his face? Gets in Hook's face and eats a Tazplex for his troubles. Hook is over. So, ladies and gentlemen, in case you don't know what the word over means, in the world of professional wrestling, if someone is over, that basically means that the crowd is the crowd is buying everything that they're doing and really enjoys. Hook has his own section, for instance. They call it the Hook section, and they've got this either these T-shirts that say "Send Hook," they've got these T-shirts that say "Hook" on them, or they've got this these little signs that they hold up that says "Send Hook." I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I thought it was really entertaining. So Ruby Soho and Riho versus Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter. was entertaining and fun to keep up with, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Once again, the women's wrestling. Every time that I see Britt Baker, I always want to smile because she is the most entertaining, if not one of the most entertaining. Oh man, my foot is itching like really bad. One of the most entertaining parts of Rampage and Dynamite. And after this, we still got Battle of the Belts to cover before we get to the Royal Rumble event. Let alone the Royal Rumble match. It took me 2 days to watch the Royal Rumble. As a matter of fact, Dan Lambert and the Men of the Year, Scorpio Sky and All Ego Adam. All Ego Ethan Page. Oh my God, I said Adam Page. Shut up. Scorpio Sky says he can beat Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara both in the same night. Scorpio Sky is not Chris Jericho, who beat, by the way, The Rock and Steve Austin both on the same night. But it wouldn't have been possible had it not been for a little help thanks to Booker T. However, that's debatable, and that's neither here nor there. We're not here to talk about that. Nonetheless, maybe we'll get around to that match, because I think it was built as 4 men, 3 matches, 2 belts, and 1 winner, or something like that. It was built around those numbers, the way that they were. There were 4 men, 3 matches, 2 belts, and only 1 winner can be crowned, ladies and gentlemen. Something along the lines of that. Scorpio Sky says that he can beat both Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara in the same night. He also says that he hasn't been pinned in 230 days. He has yet to lose a match in over 300 days, and he deserves a shot at the title. Scorpio Sky tooting his own horn, along with Dan Lambert. I'm still not sure who that is. They keep saying that he's like some dungeon owner somewhere. American Top Team. Yeah, MMA. MMA is relevant, by the way, here in the world of professional wrestling. But nonetheless, that's neither here nor there. I mean, who's keeping track, right? Daniel Garcia and 2.0. This is Eddie Kingston and Santana and Ortiz. This makes like the 3rd time. And honestly, before they even started the match, I was sitting there thinking to myself, haven't I seen this episode before? And I was kind of thinking about turning it off. You know, just like, I mean, Kingston's already been beat like twice by Garcia and his fools at 2.0. I even had to make a note because I don't even know who the hell 2.0 is. And I've been trying to figure it out for like 3 weeks. It seems like Tony Khan just likes to hire people without introducing them. But 2.0 is, for those of you wondering, is Matt Lee and Jeff Parker. Okay, so hopefully that clears it up a little bit. And in my opinion, it doesn't. But I mean, who's keeping score at this point? Eddie Kingston and Santana and Ortiz, no disqualification, no countouts, no holds barred. So basically, it's just another gimmick match for Kingston to get his hands on Daniel Garcia, or so he thinks. Daniel Garcia also has bad blood with the Inner Circle, which we're going to see here in just a moment. Oh, man. My foot is itching like crazy, and I don't know why. Nonetheless, you guys don't come here to listen to me bitch about how much my foot itches. You guys come here for the wrestling content. honestly, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The action was nonstop, and it was honestly beautiful. I would have gave it 5 out of 5 stars, but unfortunately, I hate commercials, and they made me sit through they said it was only 90 seconds, but there's no way. There's no way. My pizza rolls weren't even done. They were in the microwave. My pizza rolls get done in under 90 seconds. So how can you tell me? How are you going to sit there and tell me that was 90 seconds and you guys couldn't bother to take your last commercial break before this match ended up happening? I mean, as entertaining as the professional wrestling matches are, the one thing that's not entertaining is having to sit through Geico. Call or click today. Have you ever woke up tired in the morning? Well, try our new medication. Side effects include eyes bleeding, eyes burning, pee out your eyes, question marks in the middle of the night, anal bleeding. I don't want to have to sit through all that. You get the point. AEW Battle of the Belts, which took place January 8th, 2022. So yes, I am late. This is another AEW special event, and it's only a 3-card match. For those of you wondering, that means that there were only 3 matches. It sucks, too, because I feel like, given the roster of AEW, that they could have put on a halfway decent show, if not an even more halfway decent show, with everything that they were given. Their resources were not unlimited. They were I just messed up. Their resources were not limited. They were unlimited, if anything. They could have called in Malachi Black. They could have sent Hook, because Hook doesn't even have a match here. Matt Sydal has a match, which is awesome. They could have Eddie Kingston, and 2.0. They could have, I want to say John Moxley, but they couldn't have done that. I would have said women's match, but they already did that. Adam Cole didn't even have a match. Dude, how many people are missing from this card? Adam Cole, Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly. Oh my God. I could have done this so much better. Anyway, they could have had a tag team championships match. Did they? No? It was just the FTW. Yeah, that's it. Okay, anyway, we get the TNT championship match. Every match, by the way, phenomenal. Amazing. Dustin Rhodes faces off against Sammy Guevara. Here's something that you don't see every day. Dustin Rhodes did I'm sorry, I'm having trouble reading my own handwriting, so I'm sorry. Like I said, I wrote this yesterday. You'd figure that I would know what it was. Canadian Destroyer. So, it's a very hard wrestling move to explain to someone who hasn't seen it. But he does it through a table. Sammy Guevara does a 450 splash from a springboard to the outside. Like I said, it was fast-paced. Well, I didn't say this actually. Not yet. But I'm going to say it, okay? And then I'm going to say, like I said, it was fast-paced, hard-hitting action. High-flying maneuvers were sent left and right. And I'm surprised that Dustin Rhodes did not win this match. But it sets up for a rematch, Sammy Guevara versus Dustin's brother, Cody Rhodes. And ladies and gentlemen, I've got a few things to tell you. One, this match was beautiful for one reason. Well, 2 reasons. I just thought of a second reason. The first most beautiful thing about this match was it was the ending. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that because it was hard to watch or because, oh man, I was so bored. That's why I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Don't judge me. But anyway, what I say that is because after the match was over, Daniel Garcia, the man who's usually accompanied by 2.0 that we were just talking about, attacked Sammy Guevara. Now, what do I mean by it was beautiful? Usually, in a WWE setting, and this is just WWE, I'm going to assume, but it's also other places like Ring of Honor. It's, I'm going to assume because I've never seen them do this, but NJPW, New Japan Pro Wrestling, I've never seen a New Japan Pro Wrestling match, so I don't know whether or not they do it, but in case you're new here or you're having trouble understanding why it is that that's so important, after the match, Daniel Garcia attacks Sammy Guevara. Pay attention to what I said. After the match, there was no interference. There was no low-hanging fruit. There was no, Dustin Rhodes only lost because Sammy, threw the championship down a hallway, and the referee, since Dustin Rhodes caught the championship and Sammy Guevara laid down, making it look like that Dustin Rhodes had hit Sammy Guevara with the title. You know, there is no disqualification. There is no, oh well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have to see what happens next week, to try to hook you into watching and watching and watching and watching and watching. There is a definitive result, and the attack that Sammy Guevara underwent happened after the match, happened after the fact. Because AEW is not a sports entertainment company. They are a wrestling company. You want to know what the most beautiful thing was? Was the fact that after Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara embraced, after Dustin Rhodes hugged Sammy Guevara, and then he told him, "Good job, kid. Good job." And after Dustin Rhodes left the ring, that's when Daniel Garcia attacked. He didn't attack while they were hugging. He didn't attack. You get what I'm coming to. That was a good sense of sportsmanship between the two, and they didn't interrupt that. They didn't insult their fans. Now, here's the thing, though. This makes no sense to me, and I tweeted about it. Believe it or not, I'm active on Twitter at P1_Bay. That's P1_BAY. The FTW Championship, Matt Sydal versus champion Ricky Stark. The star of this match was Matt Sydal because he was a human highlight reel. 3.5 out of 5 stars, and I honestly think that the winner of that match should have been Matt Sydal. Women's Championship, where Riho versus champion Britt Baker, I'm sorry, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. I meant to say champion Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, faces off against challenger Riho. for the women's championship, the AEW Women's Championship. Honestly, it was a 4 out of 5 stars, but it could have been a 5 out of 5 stars. It just depends upon how you look at it. Now, here's the problem with the 5 out of 5 stars rating. Okay? So, I don't want to hand them out like they're candies. Because if I start handing out 5 out of 5 star rating perfect matches, then my credibility could go down the toilet. Understand that as a person who rates professional wrestling matches, or for that matter, that's like going to every restaurant in the Midwest, and then they're asking for a rating on their taco, and then you're just easy to impress because you love tacos. And then you're just like, I'm just going to sit here and eat tacos all day. And then you give every taco in the Midwest 5 out of 5 stars. And you're the one guy who gives tacos 5 out of 5 stars. Listen, wrestling is my taco, okay? So, you want to know what I'm going to do with that taco? I'm not going to abuse it. Okay? Understand that if I have more credibility for giving lower rate matches, then that's what I'm going to do in order to keep my credibility. And not only that, but if I give away too many 5 out of 5 star matches, as a it's hard to explain, I guess. I thought that it'd be easy to explain. Fuck. Okay, so the Royal Rumble 2000. I really thought that would be easier to explain, man. Hopefully you know what I'm talking about. You know where I'm coming from. You know what it is that I'm going to say. We started off the Royal Rumble 2000, and I wasn't able to find a date as to when this took place. I wanted to just pull a date out of my ass and just be like, January 23rd, but I don't know whether or not that's accurate. So anyway, the opening hot package talks about the main event, Triple H versus Cactus Jack, with a twist. The opponent introducing their challenger. What I mean by that is that at the beginning of the event, it was like, they call him Cactus Jack, King of the Death Match. And then it shows all of Cactus Jack's accomplishments in ECW and everywhere else for that matter. By this point in time, most of you don't know this, but ECW was either about to go out of business or it already did go out of business. And yes, this, by the way, in one way or another, was in the video games that I was mentioning before. And kind of in a different way, though. You see, in the video game, and we're going to go back to that, I guess, just video game versus real life. In the video game, if you was to win the Royal Rumble, you get to face Triple H in a cage match. And it's not at WrestleMania. You get to face him at WrestleMania, but you get to face him in a cage match the week after you win at the Royal Rumble. If I remember this video game correctly, I can't go back and play it though. Do you know why? It's because I don't have access to a Nintendo 64 system. Maybe I should go buy one. And if you're asking about ROMs, I could download a ROM onto my computer that I'm using to record this podcast from. However, I don't condone piracy, ladies and gentlemen. Wink, wink. And, not only that, but wink, wink. Are these subtle hints coming to you guys yet? But anyway, not only that, but do I not condone piracy, but if I was to download a ROM like I have already, don't tell the government, but like I have already, this certain ROM of that certain video game, it doesn't play through the career mode, just so you know. So I can't go back and fact check this. The only way that I can is if I look it up online, which I should have probably done before this. Kurt Angle comes out. He basically says that this is going to be a moment that whoever his opponent is going to be able to tell his grandkids about. After the opening hype package between Triple H and Cactus Jack, you get this Kurt Angle character coming out saying, he basically lays it on thick for the New York crowd out there. He tells them that tonight he'll be their hero because it's unlikely that they're going to ever have a hero the caliber of Kurt Angle, because it's not like Patrick Ewing, whoever that is, Patrick Ewing from the New York Knicks is going to be able to bring home a championship. I don't follow basketball, and I pretty much never have. So, anyway, had that been the case, maybe you're a basketball fan, maybe you're listening to this, and then you're like, Patrick Ewing joke, I get it. Kurt says this is something you can tell your grandkids about. Now, of course, he's referring to Taz at this point. For those of you who don't know, ECW was about to go out of business, or maybe it already had. It shows a replay of the Dudley Boys putting the Hardys through. Oh, we're not there yet. I'm so sorry. Kurt Angle versus Taz was interesting in more than one way, but I gave it 2.5 out of 5 stars, almost 3 stars. I felt like it was a little too short for an opening contest, but for an opening contest, I mean, it got the people off their feet, and for that matter, it kind of had a low-hanging fruit. So, Kurt Angle had this undefeated streak going, and the one thing that they don't tell you is how long it had been going. They don't tell you whether Kurt's 9-0 or whether he's 10-0 or whether he's 11 wins and 0 losses. The point, of course, is that if you're going to book something and make it about someone's undefeated streak, it's important to know how many wins that they have. Take Money Mayweather, for instance, who, for the longest time, I kept hearing that he was like 75-0, or, it was like some ridiculous number, 35-0 with 23 knockouts or something like that. Until he met Pacquiao, and then he just ran around the ring. But anyway, we're not here to talk about boxing. What? Boxing? This is professional wrestling. Wink. But, Kurt Angle, later on in the night, Kurt Angle would be revived by the paramedics because he did technically lose this match. But even though he lost this match, there seemed to be some sort of confusion by apparently the way that he lost means that he's still undefeated, because they show in the like after a few matches go by, or after some time goes by, they show this disoriented Kurt Angle looking at this paramedic. This disoriented Kurt Angle looking at this paramedic's flashlight, and then he was asking him how many fingers was he holding up, and Kurt Angle wasn't even participating in the finger gestures, like, hey, tell me how many fingers that I'm holding up. And it's not like the paramedic was purposely putting 3 fingers behind his back to ask him how many fingers am I holding up. He was literally just using his flashlight to see if Kurt Angle's pupils had been dilated or whatever. But Angle just kept going on and on and on about, did I win? I won my match, right? And then the paramedic was like, I don't know, sir. I don't know. I'm just here to check your vital signs. And then the paramedic told him, I'm pretty sure you were choked out. And then he said, I was choked out. Kurt Angle was like, he can't do that. He can't choke me out. He's like, that means I'm still undefeated, right? No, you got choked out. What makes you think that you're still undefeated? You stupid moron. But according to Jim Ross, according to Jerry the King Lawler, apparently it was, quote, an illegal choke. I want you guys to do me a favor. If you're listening to this, right? Here's my understanding, just to my understanding, what an illegal choke in professional wrestling really is, okay? Are you ready? You matching my energy, right? Okay. Take... You know where you're wearing your mask right now? Or if you wear your mask, you wear it like... And I'm not talking about one of those ones that ear loops. I'm talking about one of those ones that dangle from your fucking neck, like the one that I have on right now. One of those cloth masks. If you have one of those, right where your neck is attached to your collarbone, where your jugular vein is attached to your head, what I need you to do is make a almost like a flat hand, okay? If you can do that, please, for the love of God, do that for me. Follow along. Don't worry, I have a point. Make like a flat hand and then just put it over your neck. Almost like you're doing a choking motion, and then squeeze. Just please follow me. This is the dance tonight, okay? Just squeeze your neck ever so slightly, like that. Yes, I just choked myself a little bit. That's not my kink. Hashtag that's not my kink. And what I want you to do, if you did that, that is a illegal choke in professional wrestling, believe it or not. If you are laying down, and I mean like, I can't lay down actually because my microphone is too short, but if you are like laying down, like flat, not on your stomach, but on your back, and you're being choked like that, the referee would call for disqualification. He would not count it as a submission because that is an open choke, and therefore that would be illegal. Kurt Angle, on the other hand, seems to think that Taz had him in a open choke, when in fact, if you watch this program, you will see that Taz has a legal choke. It's to my understanding. Now, my understanding could be a little bit different than Kurt Angle's understanding, or for that matter, the wrestling community's understanding. I would be willing to go on record and say that I'm wrong, even though I feel like I'm right. Nonetheless, this is just the opening contest. Holy crap. But it was still pretty entertaining to watch this man not even have... He must have been dazed and confused or something, because Taz had a legal choke on him. It was known as the Taz Mission. That's what he calls it, but it's a version of Roddy Piper, who to my understanding, is the person who originated the chokehold. Unless you count Bob Backlund, in which case the chicken wing crossface may or may not have been the first chokehold. But they probably wrestled around the same time, and I'm not going to get any further into that because I don't want to have to look it up right now. I should have looked it up before. What am I doing? I don't look shit up. This is the I Don't Look Shit Up podcast, by the way. Shows a replay of the Dudley Boys putting the Hardys through a table. Then Matt Hardy putting Devon through a table. Days later, even though I put days latter instead of later. Not sure that I didn't know how to spell ladder, but that's okay. Before the Hardys get an interview from Michael Cole, asking them, oh, well, the Dudleys put you through a table last week. What are you going to do this week about it, huh? You can let me know about it. I promise I won't tell anybody. Come on, you Hardy boys. You know that you can trust me. The Dudley Boys, made up of Bubba Ray Dudley and Devon Dudley. The Hardys, made up of Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy. What do you know? Jeff and Matt. On 2.0. Must have stole their gimmick. Jeff and Matt. Whenever I was growing up, my uncle used to call me and my cousin Nip and Tuck. Not sure which one was Nip and which one was Tuck, but it's not important right now. Anyway, JR calls a full Nelson slam a full Nelson power bomb. Oh boy, are we in for a long night. First ever tag team tables match. I felt the need to put that because this was the first ever. There were also a few other first evers, including the first ever, quote, illegal chokehold. That one's going down into the record books. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. I'm keeping score. Are you keeping score at the house? Okay, so this one's a little bit weird because I thought Peacock cut it from the, whenever I was watching this, I thought for sure that Peacock had cut it from the, stream, from the library, rather, because I remember, at least in the video games, I guess, that this was the opening contest. The opening contest should have been WWF Miss Rumble Bikini Contest. I'm going to take a moment, and I know that we're always, or at least I'm always, I'm always talking about how great it is. I feel like I'm going to go 2 steps backwards right now. For all the women listening right now, whether that be past, present, or future women, and I'm not talking about future women as in like people who are planning on becoming a woman. I mean future women as in people who maybe listen to this 10 years down the road. However, just bear with me for a minute. So it's going to be kind of hard for me to say it because I'm not this person. I'm not a male chauvinistic pig, and I understand why some women would be. Oh, man, I don't want to get berated, whether it be on Twitter or anywhere else. It's hard for me to come out and say this. The judge of a bikini contest, and so I'm gonna just put it out there. I'm gonna lay my cards on the table right now. Okay, the best bikini, in my opinion, goes to. It was probably a tie. If you watch this contest, then you understand why I'm having such a hard time. Why I'm having such a hard time saying something, because it's a little bit raunchy. But the best bikini, in my opinion, aside from Jerry Lawler's commentary on it is the WWF Women's Champion, the Cat. The Cat had the best bikini in this competition, in this contest. And that, of course, is my opinion. The next best bikini, if I had to pick one, had to been BB's. So Bret Hart years ago, earlier, called Jerry the King Lawler the Burger King, and that was after Lawler had lost the King of the Ring. Don't quote me on this, but 1997. He may have lost the King of the Ring. It may have been somewhere else, but I'm pretty sure the year was 1997. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I would be willing to go on record and say that that's the event, and I don't plan on covering that anytime soon. We just crowned a new King of the Ring, so don't expect me to go back and watch other King of the Ring tournaments and gladly rank them anytime soon, at least. But it's important that you understand that Bret Hart years ago, Bret Hart told Jerry Lawler that the only thing that he's the king of is Burger King. And Jerry Lawler said that if he's the Burger King, then she's got the double whoppers. Of course, referring to BB's breasts. I have it written down here as boobs, but we'll just say breasts. She's got the double whoppers. The Cat with a bubble wrap bikini. King says he loves to pop bubble wrap and asking if he can pop it. Mae Young comes out to show all of her fans her puppies. So, for those of you who don't know, puppies is terminology for boobies. And Mae Young, at this point in time, ladies and gentlemen, bless her heart, must have been like 80 years old. Maybe older. She comes out, and I was hoping that Peacock would censor it, but don't worry, they did. I really had you guys going there, didn't I? Like I just seen old woman boob. Anyway, they keep in mind that this was a bikini contest. And not only that, but also this is WWF taking 2 steps backwards, if you think about it. Because had they would have not done this and they would have done, let's say, a tag team match for the tag team championships, which I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, yep, that's what they do later on after the triple threat match for the Intercontinental Championship, which is next. That's what they end up doing. I didn't rate this segment. I didn't give it a 1 out of 5, a 2 out of 5, a 3 out of 5, a 4, or a 5 out of 5. It was entertaining, however. I felt it was important that I wrote it down, because otherwise I feel like I would have just skimmed over it or skipped over it. But the WWE basically here, because they never revisited this to see who the, quote, Miss Rumble is of the year 2001, the year 2002, the year 2003, the year so on and so forth, and what have you. They would never revisit this. It was just a one and done type deal, and I'm not completely sure why. And not only that, but years later they would also have a Over the Top Battle Royal Challenge to see who Miss WrestleMania would be, and they kind of screwed that up too by having a man win who was dressed in drag, Santino Marella, claiming that it was his sister, which it wasn't. Was clearly him. Nonetheless, just JR calls the coach the newest broadcast partner. I felt it important to write that down because, well, if that's the case, then that means that the coach has been working there since about the year 2000. And if I didn't already say it, Mae Young comes out and she exposes herself. Mark Henry, bless his heart, trying to use his 295-pound frame to just keep her from showing the world, or rather Madison Square Garden, and all night, Jerry the King Lawler just keeps saying, "Oh, I feel like I seen a ghost. Oh my God. Oh, woe is me. Oh, man. Oh no. Oh, my goodness. Oh, Jerry Lawler. Oh." And, he was giddy whenever everyone else was in the ring. Like BB, he was giddy whenever the cat pulled off her robe and exposed her bubble wrap bikini. But whenever Mae Young shows up, someone closer to his age, he's like, "Oh no, I don't want to see that." Swear. The triple threat match for the Intercontinental Championship, and I made a note here. For the first time ever, the title is held by two people. Co-champions. Much like the Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens Universal Championship debacle. At the Royal Rumble, I forget what year it was, but I know that it was the Royal Rumble, where AJ Styles would face off in a handicap match against Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. I remember it was the Royal Rumble because I was pissed off about it. But nonetheless, I hope not to review that match anytime soon as well. But who knows, I might stumble across it on accident or something. And it would have to be an accident because I never intentionally plan on going over a Sami Zayn or a Kevin Owens match. Nonetheless, one championship held by two people, and it's a singles title. And whenever Hardcore Holly comes out for this match, because it's Chyna, Jericho, and Hardcore Holly, whenever Hardcore Holly comes out for this match, Howard Finkel announces him as allegedly, and this is his words exactly, weighing in at allegedly 400 pounds. Hardcore Holly does not weigh in at 400 pounds. He doesn't even look like he weighs 400 pounds. He looks like, at best, he's maybe 260. Maybe. WWF Tag Team Championships match. Oh, yeah. The Intercontinental Championship match, I give it 3 out of 5 stars, if I didn't already say it. WWF Tag Team Championship match where the NAO, the New Aged Outlaws, the Road Dogg Jesse James and the Badass Billy Gunn, the champions, face off against Farouk, Ron Simmons, and Bradshaw, JBL. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. It wasn't that entertaining to watch. And honestly, the accolades get kind of bombarded right at the start of the match, and it was over before it even began. Let's just put it that way. The WWF Championship match where Cactus Jack faces off against Triple H. Isn't that a mouthful? I give it 4 out of 5 stars. Like I said, I can't be handing out 5 out of 5 star match ratings like they're candy. Plus, this was gruesome to watch. You know, I had to put my kids to bed before. Shut up. Okay, if I had kids, I'd have to put them to sleep. Okay, these cats that I got. Where'd she go? She was just behind me. Oh, okay. She's on my pillow. I'm sorry. I raked her eye, but it was by accident. I promise. Don't call the ASPCA on me. Anyway, I'm getting a little bit carried away here because I'm getting excited. Here's what they did wrong, okay? This entire match was a fraud, was a sham. All right? You understand why? And if you don't understand why, I'm about to explain it. So, if they really wanted, if they really wanted to have like a good, decent match, they would have saved that for the main event. Because if you're going to save that hardcore street fight, whatever it was that it was billed as, if you save that for the main event, then you can tell a story where it's almost like, oh, who will the winner of the Royal Rumble face off against? Who will the winner of the Royal Rumble face off against? You want to know what's funny? Is the fact that the minute changes that I was talking about earlier, well, they happen to rear their ugly head again. Because in the video game, believe it or not, this should be the title of this episode, in the video game. In the video game, believe it or not, Cactus Jack is the hardcore, okay, so he's not the hardcore champion. I shouldn't say that. In the video game, WWF No Mercy, if you beat all of your opponents, then, Cactus Jack comes out of retirement for one last match, and it's for the hardcore championship, against you, which at the time had a 24/7 rule attached to it, which means that you would have to, and I've talked about this before, I know that I have, not only on my YouTube channel, but also here on the podcast, because I've reviewed 1 or 2 hardcore championship matches. I know that I have. If I look at this book, I'm sure to find one. But nonetheless, they change Cactus Jack to being unlocked if you can beat him in a hardcore match. And whenever I was like 9 years old, 8 years old, 7.5, maybe 6, the only way that I could beat the fucking bastard is if I could, and I was like a one move wonder in this video game, I would jump up to the top turnbuckle and then do a moonsault, and I would hit him. And then I would jump back up to the top turnbuckle, wait till he gets up, hit him with a moonsault again, and then I would hit him. And then once I've hit him maybe 75 or 85 times, after that, I would either try to pin him or I would go outside and look for a weapon, because it was a hardcore match and I was allowed to do that. And if I did do that, then it would cause a lot more damage. But if you was to do that in any other match, not a hardcore championship match on that game, you would instantly get disqualified and the other guy would win. So if you was to grab a 2x4 and hit me over the side of the head with it, and some referee was to ring a bell and say disqualification, and I was to win because you hit me upside the head with a 2x4, I wouldn't feel like much of a winner, because I just got hit in the head with an object. Anyway, this is not the hit in the head object podcast. in a street fight, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so the Royal Rumble. Like I said, what they did wrong was I tried to say this, but I lost track, didn't I? So, what they did wrong was they did it in the wrong order. What you should have done was had the Royal Rumble first. See, they should have had the Royal Rumble first, crowned a number one contender, and then made it out to be like, oh, now you know who your number one contender is. You should then go and find out who the champion is. Who's going to be the champion? And then, Cactus Jack, Triple H. And honestly, it was a great back and forth match. And this is maybe my 8th or 10th or 12th or 14th or 18th or 27th fucking time watching this match. Believe it or not, whether it's on a video game or whether it's in real life. Listen, my grandparents ordered this pay-per-view for me, and I got to see it as it was happening live, and I got to play through it, and not only through, well, considerably, I got to play through most of it. Before the Royal Rumble event took place, or before the Royal Rumble match took place, though, hours ago, Michael Cole interviewed The Rock. Out of all the people that he could have interviewed, he could have went, like, let's say that he went down the hallway and he was to interview like 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 of the superstars who are going to be involved into the Royal Rumble. Just to give you an idea, Michael Cole should have interviewed just more than just The Rock, and then that's it. He asks The Rock, who's your biggest concern for the Royal Rumble? And The Rock ends up telling him his biggest worry was coming into the Rumble. The Rock said Headbanger Mosh and Crash Holly. And then told him to go make him a stupid sandwich. Now, the way that he said that, it wasn't like, oh, just go make a sandwich, stupid. It was like, he kicked him whenever he said it, too. He was like, and go make yourself a stupid sandwich. He was basically implying that Michael Cole's stupid. In case you guys didn't get it. Okay, so halfway through the Rumble match, I just made a few notes here. You guys might get a few laughs out of it, especially if you're a wrestling fan. Nonetheless, I'm about to lose my voice. Bob Backlund in the Rumble this year, it was running for Congress at this time, and Jericho throws out Bob Backlund almost like 6 minutes into him being into the Rumble. And the Road Dogg throws the British Bulldog out of the ring, and King says it's a dog fight. King says doing it doggy style. He said doing it doggy style. This is, honestly, the Doggy Style podcast. I'm sorry. That was a terrible joke. I'm sorry. Oh, God, no wonder I don't have any sponsors. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me. And if you don't know, The Rock ends up winning the Royal Rumble for this year. He would go on to face 3 other competitors, and I'm not 100% sure who wins, honestly. The pay-per-view. Not the Royal Rumble. I would have to look it up again to see who wins at the WrestleMania event. Nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for joining me on this beautiful, beautiful journey. I'm sorry that I'm 15 minutes over, but was for good reason because I kept making corny jokes. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, once again for joining me, Mocha, at Robert, um, Robert Cassidy, P1_X. Good night.